last State of the Union address and is expected to feature in one of his scheduled for tomorrow. Administration officials said on Saturday the president would propose higher capital gains taxes, new fees on large financial firms, and other measures to raise $320 billion for programs and tax breaks aimed at the middle class. Yeah, a tax break, raising taxes on somebody making $125,000 a year. Folks making $125,000 a year are the ones that buy cars, go to the spa, go on vacations, give money to the PTA. I mean, that is exactly what you want is a nation of people making that money who then get services. But you raise taxes on them, and you created an economy where they couldn't make money. And then it just goes on to say, but for the middle class, the scars of the recession still run deep. See, Reuters is acting like, oh, Obama tried to fix it, but he couldn't. But he's going to promise you one more time. The number one enemy of the top 10% of the 1%, the crony capitalists, the insiders, the Goldman Sachs and J.P. Morgans, they lobby to raise taxes on the middle class because they end up getting that in banker bailout money. They want to shut down their competition. They want a consolidated, controlled, command and control economy. And the Japan Times has a report on this today. Richest 1% will hold half of global wealth in 2016. It's much worse than that. And again, it's not bad that they have wealth. It's that they got it by controlled markets, by rigging things, by getting government bailouts, by bid rigging, by no-bid contracts. And when you look at who Goldman Sachs and J.P. Morgan and Berkshire Hathaway and all these groups, who they donate to, it's across the board. Take your guns. Pass Obamacare to rip you off. And that's in this report, that it's the insurance companies that grew the biggest for the billionaires off of U.S. taxpayers. I mean, you understand, it's basically doubling and tripling health care, already 1/7 the economy. When they're done, they're going to have, it's going to be like 1/4. They're just taking everything over. And then you're going to get worse health care. But the average liberal thinks Martin Luther King was the first man to walk on the moon. They don't know what planet they're on. You just say, do this or you're racist, and they say, okay, I'll do what you say. That's all they know. That's all they can do. They're helpless. They'll vote however they're told. They'll vote to slit their own throats if they're told it's trendy. And so the elite are getting rid of any competition right now. They're sewing it up. We're going to be third world all the way. And the third world population, black, white, Hispanic, I don't care what color they are, have all got that dumbered in a box of rocks look in their eyes, that stupid smile, that self-satisfiedness that fools always have. And their ignorance, they believe, is the ultimate ace in the hole that trumps everything on earth. Ignorance is bliss, they say. Yeah, until you run into a ditch. I'm going to skip this network break because I got to get this special report as well. Richest 1% will hold half of global wealth in the next year. Wealth accumulated by the richest 1% will exceed that of the other 99%. The Oxfam charity said on Monday ahead of an annual meeting of the world's most powerful in Davos, Switzerland. And the very rich, Warren Buffett, Ted Turner, George Soros, they're the ones calling for, quote, higher taxes on the rich. But every time the real proposal gets there, it's not tax any of their groups offshore that pay zero, basically. It's tax people making $100,000 a year. It's raised payroll taxes on people making $20,000 a year. That was in Obamacare. But the poor have a lottery mentality on average where they're always looking to get rich. Somebody ran into me, I'm going to get a settlement, even though you're not really hurt. Or I'm going to win a lottery ticket. And they just love hearing a president, I'm going to give you a free house and free car and free health care. And when you don't get it, you're like, well, just give me another socialist, they'll promise me. Wealth accumulated. The scale of global inequity is quite simply staggering, and they'll use that to bring in even more socialism, see, which they're exempt from. And despite the issues shooting up the global agenda, the gap between the richest and the rest is widening fast. Oxfam Executive Director Winnie Benyami said, if I'm butchering that correctly. And then you continue here. The richest 1% share of global wealth increased from 44% in 2009 to 48% in 2014. The British charity said in a report, adding that it will be more than 50% by 2016, and then so on. They use Credit Suisse Global Wealth Report and the Forbes Billionaires list. 1/5 of global billionaires have interest in the financial and insurance sectors and saw their cash climb 11% in 1 year. Yeah, just off the Obamacare screw job. The Oxfam brief says pharmaceutical and healthcare billionaires saw a 47% bump in collective worth in 1 year. Again, worldwide Obamacare type strategies. It wasn't just done here. They get to double, triple prices, tell you it's cheaper, and the average person believes it because they're dumb. I mean, you know, they know who all the football players are and how to stick their chest out walking around a grocery store and grunt at other men. They probably wouldn't know what to do if somebody jumped on top of them and started slamming their head in the ground, though. See, it's all fake. It's all hat, no cattle. It's all empty. There's no bona fides. They don't want to hear about how they got screwed over. And neither does the middle class or the average doctor or lawyer. Because you know what? They don't want to hear it because it makes them feel like they're not number one. They like to go pay $1,000 and be at a congressman's dinner and feel like they're part of the elite and shakes the governor's hand. See, the middle class doesn't want to really be a middle class and doesn't want their kids to be at the top of the class because they just want to be in fantasy land and believe they're in control. Bless your soul. You think you're in control. To quote Gnarls Barkley. I mean, why do you think the insurance company spent over $2 billion on record that we know of passing Obamacare? Why don't you think the Republicans will repeal it? John Boehner alone is set to make more than $5 million in just the next few years on his Obamacare investments in insurance companies. Pretty cheap, huh? They're making hundreds of billions. Old Boehner makes a couple million extra. And remember when Congress got caught 6-7 years ago insider trading, CBS News headline, Congress legalizes insider trading. How about child molestation? See, this thing's all hidden in plain view, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, the article's very informative because it's stuff we already told you, but here it is in the Japan Times. And they got it off of screwing you over with your health care that was already screwed up because they've been looting it for 30 years. We had the best, cheapest health care in the world by every metric 50-something years ago. Now we have some of the worst. And don't worry, it's going to get worse, and their new solutions will be even bigger screw jobs and the lottery ticket mentality of wanting to believe the rhetoric one more time and feel good and pick a candidate from the establishment and feel like you're winning. You're going to go buy that stupid ticket and you're going to do it over and over again. Oxfam is concerned that lobbying power of these sectors is a major barrier in way of reforming the global tax system. The release says the group proposes a crackdown on corporate individual tax dodging. Is that why all over Europe and the U.S. and Australia, they've gotten rid of all the major billionaire white-collar fraud investigators? I mean, they've gotten rid of all of them and only go after now blue-collar. In fact, you can search the headline, IRS changes focus to blue-collar workers. The IRS will spend $50,000 or more trying to get $1,000 out of some shoe repair shop in one article I saw out of Illinois. We think you didn't pay $1,000. We think you kept cash. We're going to have a huge trial and investigation to throw you in jail and take your shoe store. You're not going to have lemonade stands or coffee stands. You're not going to have unlicensed food trucks. You're not going to have events where you can sell pumpkins on the side of the road or firewood. No, you don't do anything in the Supermax prison. We're going to take your bank accounts with no judge, no jury, no trial because you made small deposits. If you're a radio listener, I just put the New York Times on screen saying that. I'm not making this up. Oh, and you think it's going to get worse. You understand that? Oxfam is concerned that the lobbying power of these sectors is a major barrier in the way of reforming the global tax system, the release says. The group proposes a crackdown on the corporate individual tax dodging, more investment in free public services, more free, and a shift in taxes towards capital and wealth to help fix the problem. They mean individual capital, not part of the globalist organizations that have already been given diplomatic immunity by the UN. Oxfam called on states to tackle tax evasion, just like the French have done up to 100%, then the socialists are exempt. Improve public services, tax capital rather than labor. Well, that's the Communist Manifesto says tax labor, but see, you're not supposed to do that. And introduce living minimum wages. Now, that'll just cut people out of the workforce. Among these other measures is a bid to ensure a more equitable distribution of wealth. Oh, and the elites are all calling for that. Don't worry. They're going to fix the problem they've engineered. And the 45th World Economic Forum is coming up, and they want carbon taxes to help the poor as well, even though when you read the past proposals, it's carbon taxes on the poorest to shut you down. Just like Obamacare increased your prices. And now all Obamacare has done is poor people think that they can now get free health care when they could always get charity care and they could always get in there and get it. But now it's going to federal care through the insurance companies, and the prices are just higher. And so the hospitals are either making record profits if they're insiders, or they're going bankrupt, which is another consolidation. And when they're done, you'll pay 5 times what you did, and then they're going to go right to eugenics care. So that's how the insider scam works, and the profits for the insurance companies and banks are up 40+% just since Obamacare went in a year ago. Japan Times, from the Davos Group, from the major reports. There you go. That's how it works. And the middle class is all but disappearing. Let's now go to a report from this weekend up in Dallas, DFW area, where Joe Biggs and Jakari Jackson went out to the Respect Prophet Muhammad event to cover exactly what happened. Here is that report.
Joe Biggs here with Infowars.com. Now, we are standing outside of the Curtis Colwell Convention Center in Garland, Texas, just above Dallas, Texas. Now, today there's going to be a rally at 5 p.m., the Stand with the Prophet rally. There's going to be a lot of controversial Islamic speakers, an imam from New York City that is coming here. We first read in the Washington Free Beacon article a few days ago that this was going to happen, and I kind of had an idea that there would probably be some people in a small town like this in Texas that are going to show up and protest this. And as you can see back here, there are hundreds of people lined up and down the road waving their American flags, Jewish flags. A lot of people have the Jesus Charlie signs up from the attacks that happened in France at Charlie Hebdo. What's your name?
Abdul Sabor Ronco.
Nice to meet you. So why are you out here today, sir?
Well, it's a nice day, number one. And number two, you know, it's everybody's right to practice their religion and live their lives and kind of get along. And so...
Well, so I heard that one of the main reasons of the rally was to kind of squash a lot of the Islamophobia that they say is created by the mainstream media. Do you believe the mainstream media hypes up this Islamophobia?
I feel they're benefiting from that industry, yeah.
And how so?
Well, it just keeps people making money.
Now, what do you think about the Charlie Hebdo attacks?
I think it was a tragedy.
So in any kind of way, do you condone anything like that whatsoever? Because a lot of people think...
No. Okay. I don't condone any killing of anybody.
And you support freedom of speech, right?
Yes.
Right. And so you have no problem with the other side as well coming out here to speak their minds and all that? As long as no one forces their religion on you and you don't do it to them, everyone's fine and dandy, right?
Exactly. I like the idea of the bikers going around, you know, making their Harleys all nice and loud, and it's cool.
Now, what do you think about one of the people that were going to come out here to speak today? They said that one of the men, the imam from New York, had possible ties, and I don't think he was ever indicted, but in the 93 bombings of the World Trade Center. What do you think about someone like that coming in here and speaking? Don't you think that's going to have some kind of a a sour look on
No,
it?
I don't, because I've attended a high school graduation 2 years ago where he was the keynote speaker.
Folks, we're going
And
to
he's
come
been here
back
several
with the
times.
conclusion of Joe Biggs' report. Then we're going to talk to Mark Dyche. We got Joe Biggs in studio to give us a breakdown of what he saw up in Dallas at the Muhammad rally. Stay with us.
We're on the march. The Empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
From the water tape.